Hello again, it's me, Adedoyin Abraham, and you are welcome to a new video. Basically, this video is going to be just a chit chat about my pregnancy journey as a junior doctor slash GP trainee in the United Kingdom. So, if that's something you think you'll be interested in, please stay tuned. I have shared a video, or it should have gone up by now, before this video about my PLAB journey, about getting my first job in the UK, and about getting into GP training as an international medical graduate. So a few months after I started my first job in the UK, I got married, and then I wasn't ready to have babies. I decided to apply for GP training, and then I got in, and I planned, okay, 1 year after GP training, I would like to have my baby and then go off on maternity leave so that I come back and then I have 2 years left. So I plan to have my baby 1 year into training, as I said earlier. And then, as God would have it, a few months, I think I started GP training in August. So 2 months into GP training, I got pregnant. And obviously it was very exciting. I was happy. It was planned. So yeah, we were happy about that. And then the journey began. So I found out I was pregnant about a month into pregnancy. I was in an ITP post when I found out I was pregnant. And basically ITP posts, I don't think they are very common, but they are posts in, would I say, rural areas, where it's basically half of your week is spent in a GP surgery and half of your week is spent in a hospital posting. So I was doing 2 days in a GP surgery, 2 days in hospital, acute medicine. And then the reason why I'm saying this is the 5th day, typically it's a GP post, so you're supposed to be working 5 days a week. Weekends are spared, and then you are off on public holidays. One of the days, Tuesdays, is supposed to be for HDR, which is basically GP teaching, and then you are also entitled to half a day as self-study time, which I chose as Tuesday morning. So basically I had my Tuesdays to stay at home, except there was HDR or GP teaching face-to-face, which wasn't happening then because it was still kind of peri-COVID times. So sometime between 20 and 26 weeks, you need to inform your employer, because you need to give them time before you go off on maternity leave to be able to plan, to fill in your place, to calculate your maternity pay and all of that. So found out I was pregnant, called the midwives, got the number online, called the midwives, informed them, and then they gave me my first appointment, my first antenatal appointment. The midwives were quite close to home. It was a few minutes walk to home, so I could just stroll down there. And most of the time I fixed my appointments for Tuesdays, because as I said, I was basically kind of off on Tuesday, especially Tuesday mornings. So most of my appointments were on Tuesday mornings. I informed my employer it was around 13, 14, 15 weeks. We do 6 months rotation basically. So I was 2-3 months into the rotation when I got pregnant. By the time I was informing them, I had about 2 months left to the end of that particular rotation. So it didn't really matter. They didn't really need to do many things. They just needed to do an assessment to make sure that working conditions were fine for me. I didn't have any issues. If I had any issues, I know who to go to in the GP surgery. But in hospital, I was working in acute medicine. If you know acute medicine, it's busy. I was working on SDEC, which is basically same-day emergency care. People that come into hospital, they don't necessarily need to be admitted, but we just need to assess them. And as I said, it was around COVID, towards the end of COVID. COVID hasn't ended. I don't know why I've just said that. We're still wearing masks and all of that. And it wasn't too bad. I was fine until the first day there was an actual COVID patient on SDEC. So I had told them I was pregnant. I was waiting for an assessment. I can't remember what the assessment is called, but I was waiting for an assessment which is basically done for immunocompromised people, pregnant people, people with chronic illnesses that make them immunocompromised. Part of the reasons why that gave me a scare was I almost picked up the patient. I almost saw the patient. I had put my name on to see the patient, and then I heard from the nurses going around that the patient had COVID, and I was like, I get belly. I don't want to catch COVID. Obviously, I didn't see the patient because I was pregnant. It was still quite early in pregnancy as well. Everyone understood, and they were like, oh, we don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. See this person. My supervisor wasn't around, but I called him and informed him. And then there was one of the clinical leads for SDEC who I went to see. So I just went off the ward and I went to the doctor's mess to sit until he came around, and then I came out to talk to him. And I told him, sir, I'm sorry, I'm scared. I don't want to be here. I'm scared of catching COVID, all of that, da, da, da. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. What's happened with your assessment? He tried to ring other people to see if there was anyone else that could arrange to do it, because it's like, SDEC is a red zone, which is basically a zone where people that have COVID are allowed to come on to. So you need to be in like a green zone or yellow zone. I'm not sure there's any green zone, because green zone is typically supposed to be somewhere where it's safe for immunocompromised people. There's no COVID patients going on there. But yeah, I was supposed to be in a yellow or green zone. And if SDEC isn't a yellow or green zone, the wards are definitely not, because everyone is sharing around everything they have. So basically, all of this is to say that the plan was go home, don't come back to hospital until we're able to sort out this situation. We don't want to put you at risk. From that day, I don't think I ever went back to my hospital posting just because the assessment wasn't done. I kept trying to ring them. I kept following up, emailing every day, emailing them to let them know. I informed my supervisor in my GP posting as well. Let them know, okay, I'm still waiting. What's happening with my assessment? Try chasing up the assessment, the lady that was supposed to do the assessment. Obviously, at this point, I hadn't known that she was off work. I didn't know she was on annual leave. It was 2 weeks after someone emailed me, or I think she replied my email and said, oh, I'm sorry, I've been off work. No one else would have done it, blah, blah, blah. Have you had it done? And I'm like, no one contacted me to get it done. I've been emailing everyone. No one contacted me to tell me this is what has happened. So I kept waiting. By the time she got around to doing it, it was almost time to finish the posting. So my supervisor was just like, yeah, we'll just let that go if there's any teaching. So I was joining juniors teachings online if I could. I tried to join grand rounds online. I couldn't. So that was it. So I was only going to my GP surgery for posting, which wasn't too bad because it gave me time to work on. I was trying to work on my portfolio. I was just starting GP training. I was trying to understand, get a hang of the whole portfolio thing. And it wasn't too bad. So yeah, that was the first 6 months, and that was the first, I would say, 3 months of pregnancy, 3 to 4 months of pregnancy. And then I had to go into another posting, which was basically just a full GP posting. So as most people listening to me or watching this video already know, when it comes to hospitals in the UK, most hospitals fall under a trust. So the trust is the whole body, and then you might have 2, 3, I don't know, many hospitals under the same trust. And my particular trust has 2 main hospitals. I was living where the primary one is, which is in Grimsby, and my next posting was supposed to be in Scunthorpe. So basically, I had gotten my rotations, a list of my rotations. My first rotation was supposed to be in Grimsby, and then all my other rotations were going to be in Scunthorpe. I was trying to find a place to live, and I thought, oh, if most of the rotations are in Scunthorpe, maybe I should move there. I tried searching for accommodation. I only found one in Grimsby, which is why I moved to Grimsby. So now there's the issue of I'm pregnant. I wasn't driving. I now have to commute to Scunthorpe every day. And then I got my first schedule, my weekly schedule for the new GP posting in Scunthorpe, and it was a mess. If I can find a picture of what it looked like, I'll probably insert it somewhere in this video. It was a whole mess. There's days where I'm coming to work on a Tuesday, but then there's teaching, so I go back on the Tuesday. So I had to come to work Monday, and then I think Tuesday work just morning session because we have afternoon session for teaching. Wednesday also half day because then there's teaching. Is it called teaching or just a general meeting for GP surgeries Wednesday afternoon? So most GP surgeries, at least I'm aware of, are not open on Wednesday afternoons because there's meetings and all of that and audits. Then Thursday I was supposed to come in. I think Thursday they put my self-study time for Thursday morning, so I was supposed to come in the afternoon and just do an afternoon session. It was just a mess, and I'm like, no, I cannot commute from Grimsby to Scunthorpe every day when I don't absolutely have to. So what I did was sent an email. As soon as I got that, I sent an email to the secretary who sent me the weekly schedule, and I'm like, hi, I'm pregnant, I don't drive, I'm about to start this posting, you have sent me this. First and foremost, I can't come in every day. But before we get there, there's no point me coming in half a day on Thursday, half a day on Tuesday. So is it possible for me to come in the whole day on Thursday, and then I have my Tuesday morning as self-study time, and then afternoon? So either way, at least I have Tuesdays where I don't have to commute. And he said, okay, that's how I started. I was going into work every day. At this point, by the time I started, I think I was around 20 weeks pregnant. Wasn't showing, there was no bump, nothing. By the time I got there, and we're 4 GP trainees in the surgery, introduced myself, got to know everyone. Two of my colleagues were just coming back from maternity leave, which was absolutely amazing because they are such nice people. They were able to give me a lot of helpful advice on how to go about stuff that was confusing me, because at this point I had informed my actual employer, which is the trust, that I'm pregnant. They were able to put me through. So anyway, 20 weeks pregnant, I had started my new posting. The first week wasn't too bad. It was mostly induction, getting to know the surgery, everything you needed to do. And then I started my session. So my supervisor was aware I was pregnant. He had already had my assessment. So basically, for every rotation in pregnancy, you have the assessment because it's a new place. So they need to assess you, assess your working space. Is it conducive for you? Is it fine? Look at the chair. Do you need to adapt your chair to make it comfortable? I would like to believe that for some people, they actually do that and get new chairs if it's not comfortable, and adapt your computer to make sure you are not getting back pain just because you're working. I just told them it was fine. I'm not sure it was. It was uncomfortable, but even if I wasn't pregnant, it would have been uncomfortable. There was no point basically because it wasn't that deep. It was at that point I had missed because I know during COVID up until I can't remember what it was, maybe 26, 28 weeks, you can work in the healthcare sector. But after 20, I'm not sure I'm right, and it doesn't really apply anymore, so I'm not sure it matters. But after a couple of weeks being pregnant, you are more, because your baby, your fetus is now more developed, you are more susceptible to infections and things. So they say, oh, stay off work, don't come into hospital. One of my colleagues I met, they actually had that, where she was in hospital posting and she was past, I think it's 28 weeks, and they said stop coming in because you are pregnant, we don't want you catching anything, we don't want to cause any harm to you or your baby. But that ended by the time I was going there, so I had to go to work until I was off on maternity leave basically. So it was quite tricky for me. My husband was now working in Manchester, so he wasn't at home. My sister was calling in Hull. About, I think, a few weeks into the new posting in Scunthorpe, I just felt I don't want to keep doing this. That was, I think, around February 2022. No, February is when I started. So around March, I'm like, I'm too scared to stay at home alone. I'm pregnant. I'm going up the stairs. I'm scared. I'm coming down the stairs. I'm scared. What if I trip? What if I fall? It's just me. What if I don't have my phone? I was always holding my phone because obviously it was my first baby, it's my first pregnancy. I don't know how it works. So I decided to move to my sister's union hall because at least she's there. We're together. If anything happens, then we can take care of each other. So that's what I did. Instead of commuting, there was a bus stop. Just, it's not even up to a minute walk. There was just, it's not a park. It's just like grass with trees. And I just walk across that. 10 seconds, I'm at the bus stop, which was really nice from home. But as I said, I was home alone. It was terrifying. So I decided to move to my sister's room in Union Hall. And it wasn't too bad, but I had to walk almost 15 minutes to get the bus from there. And then the bus journey is about an hour and almost 30 minutes to get to work. From home, commuting is easier because, as I said, the bus stop is just next to the house. So I get the bus, and then the bus stops me at just in front of the train station. So I just literally walk into the train station, cross the bridge, and wait for my train. But here I'm walking 15 minutes to the bus stop, get off. That's one bus to Hall Interchange, and then when I get there, take another bus that's going to Scunthorpe, which is more than an hour ride. It was tricky, it was a bit difficult. So I discussed all of this with the secretary and with my supervisor. And they're like, okay, we can make some adaptations. So basically, instead of you, because the timing was tricky as well with the bus. So they adapted my times for me. So it meant I was starting work at 9:30 and then I was finishing work at around 3:30, which wasn't too bad for me, but they were not reducing my number of patients. It was still the same session, so it meant I didn't really get a break. I think I had maybe a 15-minute, 20-minute break in between. And it was tricky for me because I'm not a breakfast person. Even while I was pregnant, I wasn't eating breakfast. So I was relying on my break time to have lunch and then give me that boost of energy. But then I still needed to see my patients. I still needed to be trained, basically. A few weeks down the line, commuting from Hall, 3 weeks, I think, almost 4 weeks, I'm like, I'm tired. It's not sustainable because then I have to wake up really early. As I said, it's an hour or more on the bus, which means that I need almost 2 hours or 2 hours, 30 minutes to do all of this and actually get to work. It was a lot. it was trying times, but we survived. And then I'm like, I can't keep doing this. It's stressful. So I decided to go back home. At this point, sometime around April, I think my husband had moved back home because he was now going to start working locally. So it was slightly easier. There was a couple of days of overlap. I was home alone and my sister just came on weekends to stay with me before my husband got back from Manchester. So basically, this is 24, 26, 30 weeks pregnant. I'm still going for my antenatal sessions. It was a very uneventful pregnancy. By that I mean there were no issues at all. My baby was the most perfect fetus you could ever have. Like, I had to get used to her pattern of kicking. She didn't really kick. And ever since she started growing bigger, she was just on one side. So I just got used to it. Like, sometimes I'm thinking, shouldn't she kick a bit more? But it was normal for her, so I knew not to worry. I had a couple of antenatal sessions. They were just basic, nothing serious. Had a day off to go for my OGTT appointment, which is the glucose test. So that was just given to me. If you have, as a pregnant person, if you have any appointments, they just give you the day. I tried my best to make sure that I wasn't putting it on extra days. I was putting it on Tuesdays, but the OGTT one was fixed from the hospital. So I had to have the day off because my appointment was around, I can't remember now. I think it was around 12, 12:30. Oh no, that's not true. It was in the morning around 9, but the way the test goes is you go early in the morning, your last meal is around 9 p.m. the day before, and then you get there around 9. They give you the solution. No, they take a blood test and then they give you a solution to drink over 5-10 minutes, which is the glucose to drink. Anyway, so you drink that and then they give you 2 hours, check your glucose, take another blood test to check your glucose levels in 2 hours, which I went back home and came back for. And then that was it. But you're not allowed to eat up until they take the last blood test. It wasn't feasible for me to do all of this and still go to work that day, so they gave me the day off. This time I had started planning my maternity leave. I knew I wanted a year off for a couple of reasons. My first baby, I had planned towards it. I had planned, discussed with my husband, and we were happy to do a year off on maternity leave, even though we're aware I don't get paid after 9 months. So basically, there's a new video coming up. If you're interested, just subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified when I put up the video of how or what I earned while I was on maternity leave. But anyway, I had informed them I wanted a year off on maternity leave, and I was in the process of doing that. So you fill all the forms, sign it with your supervisor, let them know, you choose how you want to be paid and all of that. I'll probably just talk about that in the other video. Anyway, I had no issues in pregnancy, so I was supposed to have a regular delivery. In all of this, in my new posting, the GP post, they had adapted my working times so that by the time I was about 28 weeks pregnant, they're like, okay, we have a laptop. We can give you a laptop. You can work from home. So basically, as a GP in the UK, it's like being a family doctor for those in Nigeria. There's sometimes that patients will need to be examined. Most of the time, you need to examine your patient, but there's some that you can see. For example, you need to review their medications, patients that have something that's long term, or maybe they had been seen previously and they had some tests and they just needed to be informed of the results of their tests. Basically, things like that. And there's some that maybe, for example, a rash, a skin rash or something, where you can do a video consultation. So I was able to do all of that. So I started working from home 1 day a week. I can't remember what days I was working from home, but 1 day a week I started working from home with the laptop. Yeah, it was on the Wednesdays, because the Wednesdays was only in the mornings. This is me going to work just 3 days a week now. I was going to work on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Sometimes, I think sometimes a couple of times I was able to work from home on Fridays. It wasn't really a regular thing. Most of the time I was going 3 days a week. Yes, so I had discussed as well about my annual leave, because you're entitled to annual leave as a junior doctor 27 days in a year. And as I said, in GP posting, you have rotations. You rotate 6 months in each rotation. So that's basically 13 and a half days in each rotation. And the half day, I know there's no half day, but the half day is basically, for example, the Wednesday, if you wanted to do like Wednesday morning off, and then you have to join the meeting in the afternoon, but you can just do a half day. And for example, in GP surgeries as well, you have morning session and afternoon session, so you can use your half day to take off your afternoon session, or use your half day to take off your mornings, kind of like that. Anyway, I had discussed with the secretary in the surgery, and he advised me, if you're fine, no sickness, and obviously if you're sick, then you get sick leave, but you can just leave all your annual leave and push it to the end, just so you have a couple of more weeks extra to rest at home before you actually have your baby and your maternity leave actually starts, which was very good advice. So it came up to about, because there's no work on weekends, it came up to about 2 weeks. I did a terminal annual leave. My due date was around the 8th of July, and I put my maternity leave to start on the 24th of June. Now, as I said, I don't work weekends. So by the time I added my annual leave to that, I stopped working around the 13th of June. I can't remember the exact dates, but good thing is there was a bank holiday as well. So I skipped, of course, it's a bank holiday already. So I had many extra days basically before I actually started my maternity leave, which is good, because then you get paid, you start getting paid extra. I'll talk about the payment as I said in the other video, but terminal annual leave And then I started my maternity leave. One was really supportive. As I said, I had two people who had just come back, one of them from 6 months on maternity leave, one of them 9 months on maternity leave. They both have 3 children, so they gave me a lot of advice about motherhood, pregnancy, navigating, dealing with the logistics and paperwork coming to maternity leave when it comes to your pay, how long you want off, who to speak to. And everyone was really nice and supportive. From the train station in Scunthorpe to my surgery, ideally should be a 10-minute walk. I'm kind of a fast walker, at least a little faster than the average person. One of my uncles will say, Umarin be soldier. So 10-minute walk from train station to my GP surgery. And it was just enough time because my train arrives Scunthorpe at 9:06. So I walk 10 minutes, 9:15, 9:16, 17, I'm at work. And then pregnancy showed me. So by the time I started showing, I didn't start showing until around 26 weeks-ish. And then I started getting heavy around 32 weeks. So now, one day, the day I realized that I was pregnant, I was just, of course, I didn't think anything of it. I think it was a Monday. It was a sudden realization. Got off the train at 9:06. There's a bridge, so I crossed the bridge, came down, started walking down to my surgery. And in my head, I'm getting to work. And then everyone is like, oh, we've been waiting for you. You have your first patient with. I'm like, oh, why did they come early? They weren't early. It was me. It was all me and my baby. We were late because now we are waddling. So in our waddling, it wasn't 10 minutes anymore. So the time it took to walk from the train station to the surgery started getting longer, from 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And then I was even for my 9:30 resumption, which ideally surgery opens at 8. Most people start at 9. Even with my 9:30 resumption, I was now going late to work. Pregnancy will do that to you. So, but it didn't really matter. They were nice. It was fine. At least I was making up for it when I work from home, because on the days I worked from home, I was actually starting at 9, starting just in time. And it was tricky as well working from home, because I think as much as everyone is trying to be empathetic to the situation, you are still employed, so you still need to work. So there was days when I was still at work, or rather I was still working at 7 p.m. at night, and they're just giving me stuff to do. And there's people that's just adding more to my task. Prepare end of life care for a patient, and that takes time. But yeah, it was a pretty smooth journey. I can't complain. It wasn't too bad. I had a few episodes here and there. Oh yeah, there was the one that scared me the most, where I was alone at home. My husband was in Manchester. That was one of the things that made me move to my sister in Hull. I didn't have anything strange for dinner, and then I woke up, got ready, started getting, and I was about 26 weeks pregnant at this point. And then I got on the bus from home. It was a 10-minute bus ride. Before the bus got to the bus stop in front of the train station, I started feeling sick. I was so sure I was going to be sick, so I started walking to the front of the bus. As soon as I got off the bus and the bus went past, I was sick. I didn't know what was happening. And then I started thinking, it's very easy to call in sick at work, but then what do I do? Do I go home and sit at home alone? I'm pregnant. What if I lose consciousness? Weigh the options. And I'm like, it's better to go to work where there's doctors, healthcare workers around. So then I'm like, okay, I crossed the road. I was in front of a pub, which is just in front of the train station. And then I was sick again. At this point, I'm getting worried. I called my husband. He didn't pick up. Called my mom. My mom looked terrified. Immediately she saw my face. She knew something was wrong. And I'm like, I was going to laugh, but it wasn't funny because I wasn't sure what was happening. Kilo de, kilo shele. I'm like, I've been vomiting, mommy. I don't know what's happening. And she's like, hey, Michael, the call. I said, I've called him. He's not picking up. She added my dad to the call. And she don't be okay. They call. But my dad does. I think that's where I got it from. My dad hardly ever panics about anything. It's like, oh, you'll be fine. Just sit down, drink water. So I just went. I took the train. I went to work. I was telling them, oh, yeah, I was having abdominal pain as well. So I managed to go to work. I think I took a cab to the surgery from the train station. And then I got to work. They're like, oh, are you sure you're fine? Blah, blah, blah. Can you manage to see your patient? Your first patient is here. I will try. So I saw my first patient and they're like, okay, I did my morning session. So just listen to baby's heartbeat to be sure baby is fine, and heartbeat was fine. I had to do it myself because my supervisor was a man and he's like, okay, are you happy to do it yourself? Do you know how? I'm like, yeah, that's fine as long as I know my baby is fine. So I did it. Baby was fine, but I couldn't make it through the afternoon session. So I just told them. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. We'll just try to slot it into other people. Next time, try to make sure that you tell us early enough. Because ideally, diarrhea and vomiting, you are not supposed to come into work or see patients in the next 48 hours because it could be an infective thing. You don't want to be infecting your patients. But I still did my morning session and I just knew I couldn't because as I said, I don't have breakfast, nothing in my tummy. I'm pregnant, vomiting. I was just tired, abdominal pain. I was like, yeah, at this point, abdominal pain had subsided, but I was tired. So I'm like, yeah, I think I'm just done now. I'll just go home. I have tried to summarize my pregnancy journey. I'm sure this is a long video at this point. But that's just it. It's just basically just chit chat about how my pregnancy went as a junior doctor slash GP trainee in the NHS. And that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.